WICR.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Bill and Bob. And this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, my name is Robert Bob Baez, and I'm here with.
And I'm Bill Maloney. How are we doing today, Rob? How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. It's finals is coming up, so it's a little bit stressful, but
the Amazons are in first place.
Yeah,
best in the MLB.
Right, sports talk. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
The Yankees took 2 out of 3 in the Subway Series.
Yeah.
I kind of saw that coming, but we'll discuss all the baseball.
A-Rod hit a big one on ESPN.
Yeah, and Mets end up losing the last game because of.
He went Oppo Boppo.
Yeah, and the Mets ended up losing that last game because of 4 errors. But like I said, we'll get into that. First thing we're going to talk about is we're going to start off with our debate topic for today. A little bit of a change. Now.
Change up.
Yes, change up. See if you guys hit it or not. But so recently on Real Sports on HBO with Brian Gumbel, Chris Rock, who's a baseball fan, avid Mets fan by the way, from Brooklyn, so it makes sense.
Mayor Bloomberg, is Brooklyn in the building?
Anyway, he actually did a little video about why the black population in America is starting to lose interest in baseball. Now, we're just going to go right into it and what he's saying and what we think. So, Bill, why don't you start? I've been talking for a while now.
Well, Rob, I thought that this piece was very interesting. Actually, last week I was doing some of my online conservative browsing / reading / enjoyment, and I was on, I forgot what it was, I believe National Journal or National Review, and I saw this thing about Chris Rock, and I didn't really think that Chris Rock would belong in a conservative publication, so I read it. It was interesting, and he basically spoke about, one, about baseball and athletics as a whole, but two, I think he also spoke about society, specifically the American society, and inner city communities. And he spoke about how baseball has a problem connecting to players, or possible and potential players and fans who are African American, because for the most part it seems like an old white man's game. The common criticism of the Republican Party, likewise. And I admit that it does seem like that at points, because the game, to a lot of people, they just don't have the time to be watching a game for 3 hours.
I mean, the thing about the 3-hour part, though, is NBA games are 3 hours, NFL games are 3 hours. NFL games actually go longer. So
yeah, but also the tempo, pace, and speed of play is just ridiculously slow for many people. I find enjoyment in just going to a ballpark and enjoying the crowd, enjoying the game, enjoying the scent of the popcorn, peanuts, Cracker Jacks, the freshly cut grass. But another obstacle for baseball is that, besides the time, baseball costs a lot of money for someone to get involved in. And if you're poor, which a lot of people in the inner city communities unfortunately are, it's very difficult for you to go buy a new bat or baseballs or a glove,
and you know what,
or cleats or anything. Whereas if you just have a basketball, the basketball will last you for a few years if you have a good basketball and take care of it.
If I could interject on that real quick, in the piece that Chris Rock made, the video he made for Real Sports, he actually talked about is it a problem about money, and he actually talked about how in places like the Dominican Republic and Cuba, they don't even use baseball equipment. And that's the stereotype that we also see with DL.
And Rob, also, I'm not sure if Chris Rock brought this up, but I think he did. There's also a personality problem in baseball.
Yes.
And
do you mind if I
what I was gonna say is that in baseball, let's say you do very well if you hit a home run or whatever, you really aren't able to go celebrate. If you hit a home run, the next time to come up to bat, if you kind of showboated when you're jogging around or whatever, you're going to have a ball thrown on your face. You're going to be Giancarlo Stanton.
Oh, that was unintentional.
Yeah, I know, but it was one of the worst, if not the worst, times someone has been hit.
But
and also, when you look at the example with Alex Rodriguez when he walked across the mound versus Dallas Braden over in Oakland, I mean, that's a rule that most people don't know about if you aren't a baseball expert or whatever. And that causes a whole big seismic shift in the game. But also, a lot of these players in baseball, they come from nothing. They come from the little villages of Central and Latin America or the United States, and they're there, and they're mostly minority. And as David Ortiz said, I'm hitting one to the choo-choo train, and if I'm playing at Fenway, hitting a ball over a green wall, I'm going to enjoy it. And baseball really doesn't allow for that because it has more of a traditional backseat mentality, whereas in football, you can spike the ball, and if you have a dunk in basketball, you can go flying, and the crowds can go roaring, and you can put your three to your dome piece, quote unquote, and you can have fun.
And you know the thing about baseball is, like Chris Rock said, it's stuck in the past. Baseball is a sport out of the major sports in this country. Baseball is the sport that loves, going back to the past and keeping things the way they are. They're so obsessed with the history of the game and the way it used to be, while all these other professional leagues that are doing way better than them, in terms of popularity and revenue, are actually using forward thinking to appeal to the fans that are paying the money to actually watch these games. And that's why I'm all in favor for, all the Cuban players, Cuban exiles coming to baseball, like Yasiel Puig and Jose Abreu, because they add flair to the game.
Cespedes.
Yes, Cespedes as well. Much needed flair, by the way, because in Latin
Duque.
countries,
Duque.
I would need to see it throwing it back, but
throw back. What Fab say?
In Latin America, like during the baseball games, it's fun. People are cheering constantly. It's fun to be there.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever look at clips of players like Robinson Cano or Yoenis Cespedes or El Duque or whoever, any Cuban or Spanish player playing in the winter leagues, those winter league games, I mean, they're not at beautiful ballparks or ballparks as beautiful as we have here in the United States and in Toronto, but I think that the fans there, it's more neighborhood oriented, and the fans are more drawn to the game because it's exciting. Fans want to go see the long ball. They don't want to see Jim Leland's style of playing small ball, bunt, steal, and sac fly.
Taking pitches during
and everything. But also, a criticism of what you said about the pastime thing is I think that when you look at the way you're playing the game, you have to be innovative, and of course, you're always going to need to make adaptations and adoptions to what you're doing. But if you look at the two stadiums that are traditionally pulling the best numbers in terms of attendance, they're Wrigley Field and Fenway Park, the two oldest stadiums in Major League Baseball.
And the one with the worst attendance is Tropicana Field.
Because those two stadiums, they bring people back to a time, and they really give people a glimpse that tomorrow is still here today, that yesterday is still here today. But I think that baseball needs to go learn that you have to go.
But by the way, to get into that, you said that Fenway Park and Wrigley Field have some of the highest average attendance in baseball.
Yes.
Now, can you explain the demographics of the people that go to these games?
What do you mean?
What type of people are they? Age, ethnicity, gender, whatever.
Well, I mean, Rob, I think that in Boston and Chicago, they're like every other large city, that you're going to have a demographic of people that are black, Hispanic, white, LGBT, straight, whatever. So I don't know if I can really go categorize anyone into a specific category, but I think that if you look at Wrigley, those people, they tend to be a little more wealthy than, let's say, the people on the south side of Chicago that traditionally root for the White Sox. But, I mean, just having your neighborhood base or your local regional base is not going to always bring out great numbers for you. You need to extend beyond that. And actually, and when these two teams keep their stadiums, they lure in and attract other people to go visit their stadium so that they can get that feel of what a real Field of Dreams really is.
And actually, to go back into the whole stadium thing, the Atlanta Braves, they're
building a new stadium.
Yeah, Turner Field.
It's 20 years old. They're building a new stadium.
Downtown Atlanta, and they're building one in
Cumberland County.
Cumberland County in the suburbs. And actually, at first, I was wondering, why, they're the Atlanta Braves. It should be in Atlanta. And then they actually had a graph of where most of the people who buy the tickets are, and most of them are in the suburbs where you won't really see many blacks. That even though Atlanta's a majority black city, you're not really going to see them going to
Rob, I think that when you look at all sources of entertainment besides music, like sports and especially theater, Broadway theater
and film.
Baseball and Broadway theater, they're having a similar problem in attracting a newer, younger, more exciting crowd. And the thing about the reason I bring up Broadway theater is Broadway, I feel like it has sacrificed some of its mystique and everything, or its greatness, and it's sold out to Disney and Warner Brothers and all these other major corporations just to get all the big hits, and they've really lost they've lost touch of their meaning and the essential goodness and everything. That's why you don't see any more Great American small plays anymore. Like, everything has already been run on the silver screen, or everything's just a musical. And the same thing happens with baseball. Are you just going to innovate everything to the pleasures of everyone else and have everything become a cheap hit? When those cheap hits, they do well initially in the short run, but like Wrigley, like Fenway, those things, they're always able to go reproduce, quote unquote, and bring more fans back, just like the Great American plays that were performed by no-name playwrights at the time or whatever. Whenever they do a revival, they're always able to get more people, and they're always up for the big awards. So I think that people, as in everything, they have to start stressing quality over quantity, or in selling yourself out to the commercial market out there. And I mean, when
attracting younger fans doesn't have to do a thing. You don't have to commercialize to do that.
But the thing that Broadway does very well is, like, let's say you're a student at Iona College or a college, you can go down there and you can go get student tickets in the orchestra. Orchestra is the main level, and they usually give you very good seats in the orchestra for like $27, and when the usual price for that at a Broadway show is roughly $200 to $300, which is ridiculous. And they're trying to get younger kids to come, and so that it can become a healthy habit, because theater, like sports, is healthy. You need an outlet to really attract you. And also, I think that when we look at baseball has not really done that. They haven't given ticket incentives or everything. And also, Broadway theaters, they have real ticket offices. The ticket office is not virtual on StubHub or Ticketmaster or VividSeats.com. It's at their stadium, quote unquote. And I think that you need to become more neighborhood oriented and really talk to the young kids, because baseball is a kid's game that adults are trying to play, but adults can't play a kid's game if the kids aren't involved. And
to get back on that, another issue that we're not only is baseball having a hard time attracting black fans, they're having a shortage in black players as well. In the year 1986, there were roughly about 19% black players in baseball, which is relatively high, because that's a lot higher than the black population, which is about 13% in this country. And now it's about 8%. And I was reading an article earlier today. It was about they interviewed Jimmy Rollins, who's from Oakland, also the home of Ricky Henderson, by the way. And he talked about how baseball is becoming a wealthy kids game, because like Bryce Harper is the exact opposite of what Bryce Harper he's a poster child of why certain people in inner cities can't play professional baseball. Bryce Harper is from Las Vegas. His family, they used to send him on these like year-round little league tournaments. They used to pay for everything, his plane tickets, his lodging, all that. And he was able to get noticed because he went to a school in a wealthy area in the suburbs. And scouts don't want to go to like the inner city neighborhood to see the baseball, to see these kids play baseball. And Rollins, he actually mentioned how one of the teams that they were planning on playing didn't want to play the team in inner city Oakland because they didn't want to, quote unquote, they didn't want to walk up 98th Street, which I'm assuming is where he's from in Oakland. So that's another reason. Now we talked about the wealth issues. Sometimes these black kids are able to afford to play baseball, but scouts aren't willing to go there because of the reputation that these neighborhoods get.
Yeah, well, Rob.
And then he actually talked about RBI, which is a program that the MLB is trying to do to get inner city kids to play baseball. And he said that all he said was, quote, RBI, whatever. That's literally what he said. So
yeah, I mean, the MLB's program of RBI, it definitely helps, and it's a starting point. But it really doesn't solve the problem. I think that the problem, like any real big problem, is going to take time, and it's going to go take a lot of effort. And one little solution is not going to change it. But I was reading something about Alex Rodriguez, and someone was asking him about his contract. This might have been a few years old, the article. And someone's like, "Oh, you come from Miami," and you know, Alex Rodriguez was the kid that was on the porch every day, or maybe not the porch, on the steps every day looking for his pops. And his pops never came until one day in Minnesota. He put out 3 big ones, and the Twinkies weren't that happy, and the reason was his dad was there. He never had a father in his life. And all of a sudden, someone asked, if you have all that going on in your life, and all of a sudden you're making $25, $27 million a year, how does that make you feel? And he says, makes me feel pretty good, you know. Back in Miami, no one cared about my opinion. Now I'm here in New York, and I talk, people listen. So, and I think that's the attitude that all these people, they're really kids. They're a few years older than us. Yasiel Puig, and all these other people. You know, it's their time to have fun in Hollywood and Hollywood everywhere, because that's what the MLB is for them. And when you see front office officials or legal counsel, advisors everywhere, or analysts, which are traditionally old white guys, and I have no problem with an old white guy. I am going to be an old white guy one day. But I have a problem with people saying that this is how the game should be played, when the game is really a means to go express your individuality. And Yasiel Puig, people want him to stop with his bat flips and everything.
First of all, he's not the only one that has bat flips.
And Rob, me and you and I, before we were talking about the importance of just expressing who you are and not being mitigated, and whatever it is you want to do, don't sacrifice and sell yourself out. And I was like, I came up with a quote this morning on the bus, looking at how utilitarian things are, or how people just want to push you to the center. And I was like, common is just a number. And then Rob comes back, and Rob says, yeah, it's like they're trying to put you in prison where you're just a number and you have no way out. And that's what they're trying to do to players like Yasiel Puig. Yasiel Puig has been in prison his life. He was playing baseball with cardboard gloves, and now he's there. And
now he's playing in Dodger Stadium.
Dodger Dogs. You know, Dodger Blue is going crazy. Chavez Ravine is going crazy. So don't put them back in prison. They didn't do anything wrong. They're just celebrating their success. And I think that, you know, there's a difference between someone celebrating their success and enjoying it because they're hitting a ball to a choo-choo train, and then someone saying, oh, I'm this good, when really you can't hit a ball or you can't do anything.
And, you know, back to the issue real quick, before we take a break. You know, I think that if you really look at it, African Americans specifically African Americans are probably the one group of people in baseball that it's probably the hardest for them to make it, because sure, you have a lot of poor kids in Dominican Republic and Cuba and Mexico and even Puerto Rico so much, and you know, and so forth, but those scouts, they purposely go to those places to get those kids out.
And also in countries like that, they have the ability to go exploit them at a younger age.
Exactly. Where
a scout can go up to a 14-year-old, Mariano Rivera or whatever, and say, hey, you know, quit school, let's go play some baseball, and, you know, this is your only way out, or else you're going to be throwing, you know, seashells into the ocean all your life. And that's what the Yankees did at 16 years old. They took Bernie Williams. They took Bernie Williams, who just retired, ironically, the other day, before the Mets-Yankees game, Friday night. And they hit him up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, I think, for 2 years until they could go draft him. And, you know, that's happening to all these players, and they realize that baseball is their only way out. But here in America, for some reason, we have an issue with people that are young succeeding.
You know, in America,
when they have the skill set, and especially in a sport like baseball or any professional sport,
the thing is, like,
the years are limited that you're going to be able to go do your job. So do your job well and do it soon is basically the motto.
You know, in this country, they expect a lot of these kids in the United States, black or white, whatever, to already be able to have the funds and resources to play Little League year-round. And so because of that, a lot of African Americans are being left out. You know.
Yeah,
because they can't do that. You know, they could probably play for the high school team or middle school team if their middle school even has a baseball team. Because a lot of these middle schools like that are mostly black don't even have baseball teams
Bob,
or high school.
Rob, tying it back into society and politics in essence, I have a problem when I see Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin, a big fan of the center to moderate, whatever you want to call it, right Republicans. And he says, oh, I don't have a college diploma. Okay, that's fine. I don't look down on anyone that doesn't have a college diploma. And, you know, no one should. But when, you know, you have politicians like that who make the argument that a college basketball player should stay in school for the 4 years because they're really going to get an education. I mean, that's just total hogwash because they aren't in school, number one. They're on the court. And if they're in school, they're making money for the school. And they're traveling cross country. And they're barely in class. And when they are in class, do they even have the time to go read all those Plato readings that the professors are assigning them? And also, look, if Scott Walker wants to say, I need college to go get to this level, then why do you think that a college basketball player needs college to know how to go throw a ball down a hoop when he could be signing a contract for tens of millions and then possibly the next one for like hundreds of millions of dollars and really help like the next dozen generations of his family? So, I mean, that's total hogwash. And bringing it back here, I mean, you see the same types of people saying that you aren't able to go do something to like all these high school kids and that you really have to go pursue college. Meanwhile, Scott Walker, he thinks he should be president of the United States of America without going to college, and that's besides the point. He thinks he's too good for it, and he hates education, and he's cut the UW education system in half, and he thinks professors and doctors should make the same as the guy that fixes your coffee at Starbucks. So that whole hypocritical spin on it is ridiculous, and it's annoying. And I think that is un-American because at the center of American stuff, just like at the center of American pastime, is if you can hit a fastball, you can hit a fastball. And you should be able to go get rewarded for it. And no one should go suppress your individuality. And I think that's the real problem that we have with baseball's diversity issue. And how are we going to go mitigate that? And how are we going to go tell Yasiel Puig that you can flip your bat and hit that ball into Los Angeles night all you want?
So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on Bill and Bob.